I have never once seen him doodle. I never saw him draw a picture. In fact, I would be very shocked if Donald Trump actually can doodle. It's just not his thing. And the language, using words like enigma, that's not a Donald Trump word.
Michael doesn't like Trump at all. And even he says, this doesn't sound like him. Why are you printing stories like this? Unless you really do have an axe to grind, which it seems to be the case. So Murdoch may want to take down one Donald Trump. You see, I worked at Fox, so I have a little intel into this. The Murdochs like to control the GOP. They like to be sort of in charge of all this. I can remember occasionally we'd get a mandate, do not have Donald Trump on your show. In one case, I wasn't even allowed to have Mike Pence. Seriously. I actually fought hard and got him on the show. This was back before everything, right? But I'm like, are you serious, guys? You're not going to take the vice president of the United States? Because somebody's got a tiff in the Murdoch family? I don't know. But how could you not have Mike Pence on the show? No, they were giving me all kinds of trouble. We don't want Mike Pence on. And then they would say, we don't want Donald Trump on. And there would be these kind of edicts that would go out, in all seriousness. So they'd try and blockade, right? Like put up this blockade. And it's been more and more challenging for them to do that. Because what happens is the viewers see through it and they've had it and they can go elsewhere. They can go, oh, I don't know, over to the streaming industry, right? Right here. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. So I think that Rupert Murdoch, Lachlan Murdoch, they're looking at this and saying, oh gosh, we got a bit of a you-know-what storm on our hands because we got a guy that we can't control. So what did I tell you the other day? I was concerned. I was concerned that you had some Murdoch-run talent. A lot of people don't know this, but the company that sells the advertisements for both Tucker's show and Megyn Kelly's show right now, that company just got bought by Fox. And who did you see out there blasting over and over? And the one I couldn't understand was Steve Bannon, because I know Steve and he's a really good guy and he's true blue. And, you know, I don't agree with him on everything, but I will tell you that Steve has the best interests of this president and the MAGA movement and wants it to succeed. So he was making a big deal of this too. That, you know, I understand because we all want answers, right? But then I started to see it like take on this life of its own. And I started getting worried. And what did I say to you guys? Listen, like, you got to be careful here because we're onto something. Don't let them divide us. Well, Murdoch may have sensed an opportunity. Divide and conquer, right? And so all of a sudden, the next thing you know, the Wall Street Journal is coming out with some crazy, crazy piece. We'll get to it in a second. But first, you heard it here first. Steve Bannon just came to this realization, I guess this morning. I want to play a clip from his show because he's right. And it's exactly what I've been saying. Here we go. Here's Steve.
Last night we saw it in all its ugliness. The Murdochs hate Trump. The Murdochs want to take down Trump. And this is why on this Epstein and everything, including the rest of the going after the deep state, we have to be on offense all the time. Last night they put up a phony letter, which I understand from senior sources working with President Trump. They never even showed the letter. They don't even know if they have the letter. They may be doing the letter from something that people told them about. President Trump had discussions with senior people at the Wall Street Journal, which is always the instrument they're going to take out MAGA and to take out Trump, right? The sharpest tool that they've got. They use the New York Post as more of a populist entity. And of course, Fox News is for rhinos. But the Wall Street Journal is the neoliberal, neocon, sharp end of the stick that they come after Trump. And last night they tried to actually destroy him with what looks like a phony and fake letter. President Trump has put him on blast, put Murdoch on blast, particularly, as I have long recommended.
Yeah, he actually, in fairness, he has never liked the Murdochs. I would get edicts where I couldn't put Steve on either. They'd be like, no Steve Bannon right now. And I'm like, come on. Like, seriously, you know, yeah, this would happen. This would happen. And so I'm just telling you the lay of the land over there, okay? They don't like him. They don't like Trump. They don't like Bannon. They would love to be able to take back hold of the Republican Party. You know, you put somebody in there. Tucker said the other day they tried to put him in there. He was telling another podcaster, actually another guy who used to work at Fox, yeah, they wanted him to run for president when he left Fox. Imagine that. They fire him and then they're like, would you please run for president and we'll back you in the New York Post and the Wall Street Journal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he's like, no, I don't want to run for president. I don't know. Maybe they're talking to him again. Is that part of the reason? I don't know. I can't speculate too much on that. But what I can tell you is that this story is pretty weird and bogus. And it kind of reminds me, not as bad and not as seedy as what we saw back in 2016, but it's a little bit out of the ordinary. So this article came out and Trump is pretty mad. He's suing him, I think for was it $20 billion? He's like, I'm going to take down the Journal. I want to end the Journal. And I'll just say this. So what's unusual about it is that, sure, a president has never actually sued. Don't forget, when he sued CBS and won, and he sued ABC and won, and he sued NBC and won. By the way, all of those lawsuits were done before he was president. So a lot of people are saying, but he's president now. But just because he's president doesn't give you the right to print garbage. And that's wrong. Okay. Like, I'm sorry. I got my rights and I got my wrongs. And you know what? You don't just go out and print garbage about an individual. I'm very careful about even what I say. There was that thing that happened on the Jumbotron, right? With the astronomer CEO and his HR person. I haven't even run that story. You know why? Because I don't want to, because they're individuals with families and they got caught on the whatever. I really feel responsible for protecting people's privacy. On top of which, when I'm talking about someone, I want to be right. I don't want to be going out with all this innuendo, something that I think is going to, sell papers or tabloids. Listen, this is Murdoch, right? He came from a tabloid background. What can we say? I don't want to do that because that's somebody's reputation. Whether they're an individual, whether they're the president of the United States. But they're trying to say, oh, well, because he's president of the United States, well, we can go after him. You still have to be responsible people. And in this case, it doesn't sound like they were responsible at all. You got a couple of reporters. He's now suing them individually, along with the guy who runs as the CEO. I think it's Mark Thompson. Actually, who is it? Again, I'm blanking on the guy who runs the Wall Street Journal, but whoever runs the Wall Street Journal, he's suing him. He's suing the Murdochs. He's suing the reporters, and he's suing them personally because they published this alleged letter, which everyone's like, this doesn't even sound like him. These words don't sound like him. It's really stupid. It's like some kind of cartoon drawing, and it's some kind of imaginary conversation where they're talking about, keeping secrets, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't sound like him. He is adamant he had nothing to do with this. He looks forward to suing Rupert and the Wall Street Journal, and he wants to basically put this garbage out of business. Everybody's come out and said, here's a long, long, long thing that he sent out talking about the editor. He's suing the editor. Caroline Leavitt said that they didn't even have the letter in their possession. They're like, so what are you guys doing? Seriously, what are you doing? I mean, he's got a bunch of things on Truth Social, but even Elon weighed in, and Elon's like, this doesn't sound like him. I'm telling you, it doesn't sound like him. And then, by the way, don't take my word for it. Don't take Elon's word for it. Don't take Steve Bannon's word for it. Let's go to Michael Cohen, who worked for him for a whole bunch of years, and watch.
Well, what was your take?
I agreed with him. I've never, not once, and again, over 13 years of being by the man's side, I have never once seen him doodle. I never saw him draw a picture. In fact, I would be very shocked if Donald Trump actually can doodle. It's just not his thing. And the language, using words like enigma, that's not a Donald Trump word. I mean, he certainly knows what the word is, but it's not a word that he uses. I found the whole thing just to be odd. Now, I wouldn't be shocked if somebody had turned around and reached out to the office and said, hey, look, we're putting together a birthday book for Jeffrey. Can Donald doodle something on there? And these are the words that we want you to use in some doodle. He then gave it to an assistant. Many of his assistants were not just good artists, but fabulous artists. And so that's probably what happened at the worst. Now, chances are I don't know the answer. And that's the whole problem with this entire story. None of us know the answer. If you despise Donald Trump, you want it to be true. If, in fact, you like him and you support him, you want it to be false. Why should any of us have to guess? There's no reason for us to be guessing. And in fact, I agree with kind of what Dan Goldman said. Just release the file. And if you want, I'm more than happy. I'll read the file. As somebody who's been critical of him, let me read the file. I'll come to the American people and tell you exactly what it says in there. Because that's what America wants. That's what America needs.
Well, I think that's actually going to happen. So Anna Paulina Luna met with the president extensively this past week. We're going to get her on the show next week. So we'll make that happen because she's got a lot to say on both this and, of course, the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell. She's calling for his resignation. Anyway, she had met with him and then she went and met with Pam Bondi, and now they're releasing some of these things. You saw that Pam Bondi is actually coming forward and saying, yes, Mr. President, I will go ahead and release some of these documents. They're trying to still protect identities, et cetera. And they're also trying to be somewhat mindful of this stuff being, I don't know, fake? Like, at least, in terms of that particular letter, they got to be somewhat cautious about that because these are people's reputations. Again, like I just say, like somebody's reputation. I hate this new world where you can just trounce all over people in a second, right? It doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem right. And so I don't care if you're the president of the United States or if you're Joe Schmo, who works down at the plant. You don't deserve to have your reputation trashed with fake news. And this kind of sounds like, for goodness sakes, you guys don't even have a copy of the letter that you're going to print, for goodness sakes. What's that about? And then you look at, they're going to the White House and the White House is saying this is not true. You can't print this. And they printed it anyway. Interestingly enough, one of the reporters, do you know that one of the reporters on that story, okay, here we go, 6 degrees of separation, you guys. One of the reporters allegedly used to work for the wife of the guy who is the founder of Fusion GPS. She had her own little intelligence bureau going, where she'd do her own little bit of dirt digging. And she had this guy who then went on to the Wall Street Journal to become a DOJ correspondent. This guy was working for her. 6 degrees of separation, don't you think? I'm just saying. Here's the deal. Like, if they had anything on him, trust me, it would have come out. Oh, they really didn't want him to win. They didn't, they put Kamala up. That's how much they didn't want him to win. They were so worried about Biden. Biden might have actually had a better shot now. Who am I kidding? No one had a shot. No one had a shot because look what you guys did to the economy, for goodness sakes. Look at what you did. You own that, buddies. Like on the Democrat side, they just, they printed money. They did everything wrong. It was like the Costanza Seinfeld thing. Whatever Biden wants to do the opposite. And you might actually stand a fighting shot. But he's going to be busy right about now. Because as I said, he's now got Pam Bondi releasing some of this stuff because she's just disgusted. He's disgusted. Everybody's disgusted by all of the innuendo and the false reporting and the allegedly fake stories. None of it adds up. And you know what? We got a good thing going. Don't we, guys? We got a really good thing going. The market's doing great. I love it. Crypto's doing great. We got the Genius Act through the other day, the Genius Act, right? And we're moving forward. I know some of you guys don't like crypto, but I'm telling you, it is the future. Just trust me on this one. Trust me. I hate to say it. I don't think I've ever been wrong. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. My husband gets annoyed when I say that, but I'm like, honey, you know what? Especially when it comes to investing, which is why I want you to go check out my newsletter, 76 Research, 76research.com. Use code word dollar. That way you get $1 a month for the first 2 months. I told you, I shared a report that somebody sent in, just an email. Somebody was so excited because this particular person is up, like she said, she was up like 56%. And one of the things that we recommended, I'll just give you a hint. It was STRK, a convertible bond offering. Anyway, we got lots of ideas. We just put out a note the other day on inflation again and what it means if we get a change in the head of the Federal Reserve. But you can go through some of the portfolios. There's lots of good stuff there. I will say this. You know what? None of this stuff really matters to Trump voters. It's been proven just in the new poll that we got out the other day. I played this for you guys yesterday, but I got to play it again because it's so good. And I love this guy over at CNN. He's like the only good one at CNN because he gets so excited about stuff. I mean, he was talking about Elon Musk, I think yesterday, and Elon Musk has very bad poll numbers right now because of the split from Trump. And he kept saying, geez, Louise. And I'm like, I love that. I haven't heard geez, Louise in a while. That's an oldie but a goodie. Anyway, here he is talking about the enormous success of Donald Trump with his base. Because you know what? We know that we're on the right path and we're not going to be deterred. Not by Murdoch, not by anybody who's trying to interfere, not by Jamie Raskin or Adam Schiff or any of the Dems that want to make this into a bigger issue. Watch.
I mean, look, I think this one surprised me a bit because of all of these complaints online going after Trump and the Epstein files. You might think his approval ratings were going down, Republicans. If anything, they're going up. Republicans who approve of Trump, look at our CNN poll. The prior one, 86%. The one out this week, 88% were Republicans. How about Quinnipiac? The prior poll, 87% approve of Republicans. This week out, 90% were Republicans. If anything, Donald Trump's approval rating has gone up since this whole Epstein saga started. He is at the apex or close there too in terms of his popularity with Republican voters, Epstein files, complaints or not.
You just proved that not everything online is real.
Yes,
in real life.
Who knew?
Amazing.
Twitter and X are not reality.
Is there any reason that you can find that this hasn't taken hold and hurt him?
Yeah. I mean, on X, all you hear about is the Epstein files. But how about out in the real public? Republicans who said the top issue was Epstein case. The answer is one, and not 1%. One respondent. This is a great little finding that Ariel Edwards-Levy, who of course is part of our polling unit, found. Just one single Republican said that the nation's top problem is in fact the Epstein case. Not much of a surprise that therefore Donald Trump's approval rating has not suffered with Republicans because of the Epstein case. Because the bottom line is most Americans say it's not high up on their priority list.
That's so great. I mean, and that's the truth, right? Because what is on Americans' priority list? They want to make sure that they can put food on the table, that they can save a little money, that they're going to be able to retire one day, and that their kids don't get indoctrinated with a whole bunch of crazy woke stuff. Okay? Not that hard. The Democrats make it hard. They make it hard on themselves. I'm telling you, they could have a much easier future if they just actually would embrace some kind of normalcy. If they embraced humanity for what it is. It's what the beauty of capitalism is, right? Because it embraces sort of the good and the bad. Like we recognize the bad and we take the bad and we make it into good. I mean, capitalism isn't perfect, don't get me wrong. I mean, we could still fix a few things along the edges. And I think there needs to be some work done to try and create a stronger, more vibrant middle class. But this is exactly what Donald Trump is trying to do. In fact, prior to March 2020, someone was asking about when I left Fox. Yeah, that was March 2020. I was furious that I saw the market tanking 2,000 points. I'm like, this is ridiculous, for goodness sakes. And they're going to shut down the country? You need a strong economy to fight a thing like this, do you not? And look, don't get me wrong. There was a lot we didn't know back then. And I know we all lost people, but still, when you go back in time and you look at the misinformation that we were fed and you consider how hysterical people became, it was almost like another way to go at him. And they just used everything they could. So everything became political. I would talk to Democrats who would say, oh, I'm not going to get the shot if Donald Trump is in office. And I'm like, serious? And then the same people were like, you got to get the shot and you got to get it again and again and again. It became just so hugely politicized and it was so wrong, right? Because if you want to protect the country, you got to protect its people. You got to protect the middle class. You got to be honest with people. You got to be truthful. You got to be transparent. And so I'm telling you, the base still loves him and they're not going anywhere. Absolutely not. And so I think it's really critical people stay together at this moment in time.